So this second alternate extra credit is all about building research skills and hopefully doing that in a way that actually improves, deepens, enriches how you can do your project. So let me give an example, walk you through it using the public sculpture of Dubuffet's La Chiffonniere, which is located in San Francisco at the Embarcadero at the Justin Herman Plaza. So if you Google, I think, what were the search terms I used? Let me scroll up for you. If you Google Dubuffet Sculpture San Francisco, you get some thumbnails there. And a lot of students will just Google to get information, which is okay. You might look at Wikipedia briefly, but I want to remind you, Wikipedia is not that reliable of a source. I find false information and false interpretations in there all the time. You have to be careful with it. You could go down and find that, oh, look, there's an entry on the artist in the Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco. So that's a reputable collection. It's a .org. So the Fine Arts Museum of San Francisco is a .org, not a .com. They're not trying to sell you something. And it's a .org that hires people who have invested their lives in studying art. And so a curator who's an expert on Jean Dubuffet will have written this particular entry, and you can get a look at some artworks. So this is a really good entry that might be very useful for you. And you could certainly have one or two museum entries on your annotated bibliography, but it is specific to this extra credit assignment that I want you to make use of the library resources at DVC. Because part of becoming a skillful researcher is not Googling. Googling is great in that it gives you a bazillion things, but it's terrible in that you can't sift through a bazillion things and find what is actually really useful. That's the challenge with research. How do you find a good source? It's not enough to have a source, you need a good source. So one of the things you can do is you can use the library and the librarian to help you. You can type in Dubuffet and get a list going here of things that have earned entry in the library because librarians have vetted them, have looked to see what's considered useful in the field. So for instance, Encyclopedia Britannica, a good source. And then look, excellent, there is a video, and I'm asking you in this resource to find a video. Even better, look at that. The chat box just popped up, and you can say to the librarian, please help me. I need to find some really good sources about Dubuffet. I'm working on his public art, his sculptures from the 1940s on. What about his sculpture in San Francisco? Can you help me find anything on that? You can tell them what this project is and get them to help you. It is always ideal to have a knowledgeable human guiding you and not just the Google algorithms. So for the purpose of this assignment, you want to be finding good resources that you can put together into your annotated bibliography. And part of this is learning to look at what comes up in a search where you get a big list and figure out, which ones are most useful by first thinking, well, what kind of a source is that? There's a film here, the artist studio Jean Dubuffet, and we've got an actor, Michael Blackwood. Does that mean he's playing Dubuffet? Does that mean this is an enactment? Is that going to be more for entertainment compared to another video that we have, Jean Dubuffet, Happy Landscape? I know that Films for the Humanities is a very reliable, excellent producer of educational films. So how do those compare? That's one of the things you do when you're constructing an annotated bibliography. You explain what kind of source it is. You explain what it's trying to do and what kinds of materials it's using to do that, right? And you explain whether it's a peer-reviewed source from a scholarly journal, or if it's a general source, from a popular but reputable encyclopedia. That's what you're trying to start to want to be able to do, and that's what you can ask a librarian for help with. You can say, well, this peer-reviewed source, is that going to be comparable to what I'm finding when I go to the Encyclopedia Britannica, or what kind of resource is that? I'm just throwing out an example here. So you want to talk to experts about the kind of source you have so that you can actually identify where they are on a spectrum of usefulness and then dig more deeply into them.